Hello everyone and welcome to a new video from me. A, a little bit different video this one. I'll do, instead of a tutorial or something related to Godot 4, I'm doing something that I'm calling GUI Speedrun or Godot GUI Speedrun. It's a codeless challenge essentially. I'll have 20 minutes to use the Godot style control nodes thing that maybe you already know much about. I've seen in the internet videos and tutorials about how to use each one individually, what, say, label is used for, or something like that. But I never seen someone actually building something up using the control nodes, especially something that is more GUI intensive. So even though many people talk about how Godot GUI system is so good that you're able to build Godot itself with it, I thought on just making like a challenge. It'll be a 20-minute challenge to try to get as far as I can. And I for sure won't finish. And for today's challenge, I'll try to remake YouTube, essentially. I'll essentially not finish. I try just to see how long things will actually take, and 20 minutes will not be enough. At the very least, I'll go through a little bit of my process of building up a UI so that maybe learn a little bit more on the power of Godot and its GUI system. So let's get to the challenge without further ado. Timer on. Okay, so a little analysis of the interface. There's like a nav bar on top and a nav bar on the side as well, and some center content with a grid, essentially a bunch of buttons, something to search here. Okay, so I'll start with the nav bar. I usually like using panels for most of my things. Panel. And for the nav bar, I'll just have top wide, something like this. For the main panel, so the main part, I'll just make a full rect and drag it something like this. And you notice how the anchor points are. This is important for how the re-layout does. You see it works well this way. Good. For this nav panel, and no, nav, I have two buttons on the side. So button, yeah, sure. Yeah, button, and I'll make a horizontal HBox container like this to hold everything for me, just because it will be a little bit easier. I have two buttons in this left part, which I'll make another horizontal container to hold the left part, another one to hold the middle part, another one to hold the last part. And all of them I'll expand. I'll just make the second one bigger. It looks close enough. Okay, this one has two buttons. What I usually do with buttons, even though you can add icons here, for example, or change it to a texture button, they both have some limitations. So what I usually do is just add a texture on top of it. So something like this. If I do a full rect on it, and I'm using this add-on just to help me put some icons on top of it. This first one is just a wafer thing. Is this one? Expand, make it center, and you'll see how things go here. Now, if I go back to the button, I want to make it square. So I'll go to rectangle and I get the Y, I put the same value in the X min size. And now what I can do, since the texture is inside, is just do something like this. I Control Alt drag, and I'm able to make it a little bit smaller. And this button is a flat icon, something like that. Well, I'll leave it like this for now. This one is my YouTube thing. I'll just make a play, maybe there's a play thing. Yeah, something like that. On this side, the buttons will be to the end. I think there are 4 of them. And each of them has something different. I'll just copy something to each of them. I'll make all their min size in X the same as the Y, just so that I have something inside each of them. Okay, and the center part, I have something to type and 2 buttons. Something to type is a line edit and 2 buttons after it. So it's easier to drag this before. This one I want to actually expand horizontally, something like this. But you'll notice I don't want it actually to go towards the full end. So I'll actually add something to give us some padding shortly. This one is a search button. So same thing, I'll just copy something into it and put a search. Something like this. Full rect. And this one is a microphone, if I'm not mistaken. I'll just use whatever, this thing here. And once again, I'll need to change the minimum size so that these things are properly put. This thing is a little bit smaller. And if you remember, this one is actually larger. So I'll get back here and put something else, maybe 90, something like that. Something else that I remember is that this one is connected to this. You see, there's no division. So I'll get this, override the separation, make it connected. Though I want this to have some separation. So I can add a control just for separating the 2 buttons. So I can either do this is one possibility, or add like a minimum space as well. Feel free to choose whichever you prefer. Now I want actually for this thing to have some space before these buttons. Though at the same time, this is more realistic, like a larger screen. But still, what I'll do with this one is shrink it down a little bit. So I'll just add on the original one 2 controls, 2 paddings essentially. One before and one after the center thing. And I'll get this one. I'll make some padding like this so that this is properly centered. Something like that. Now we have everything kind of set up. One interesting thing that I want to showcase, since there is time, is that I'm able to come to this button, for example, and override its style. For sure, I'll need to override everything, but just to exemplify what I want to do is I can make black, or almost black maybe, something like, almost black, with a large corner radius, say 50. And you'll see essentially it becomes a rounded button, similar to what is in here. Yeah, this thing. For sure, I need to get the proper color, but there we go. Let's just move on. I'll get all these buttons, these ones. All of them are flat buttons. I'll select from here. These buttons are flat. As you see here, they don't actually put any overlay on top of things. Only this one actually has some kind of thing going on. Oh, and last thing, there's like a padding around this center portion. So something that I usually like to do for that is use a margin container. So just get this put over here, put this thing inside the margin container, make this expand as well. So this one is a little bit larger, something like this. And since I have now a little bit padding possibility, maybe this is too much. Maybe this is too little. Nope. I'm able to put some padding on around the things, you know. And yeah, you notice that this now broke a little bit. I can totally just change up things here, especially on the sizing part, and mess a little bit with it. For now, I'll just leave it like this. Correct. Yeah. Good. To the left. Now I have in my main container, I'll add another H box container, full rect, where I'll have 2 panels. I can even use separators for that, which is fun to use. But what I want actually to expand, and I want to make this one. Yeah, if you notice, this thing actually doesn't increase, like doesn't get bigger or smaller if I change the window. So technically, I don't want this. I want the panels to be raw here. This panel I want to be left wide, something like this, and maybe this wide. And the next panel will be a full rect, but will start after this second one. So something like this. What I'll do with this second panel is put some different color to it. So it'll be easy to see. So just make this and make a darker panel. This is the main panel. This is the side panel. Side panel will have some other color as well. And what I'll start to do now is, instead of doing like this, I'll create a theme and put in my control. New theme in my control. I can click here and override the panel color. This. What? Now it overrides everything regarding panels, and just click here and make it a different shade of dark color. Looking fine. Now to the left, which is nav2 maybe. There is essentially a bunch of VBox containers, right? VBox containers. If I do a full rect, you'll notice that here I can scroll. So instead of making the full box like this, I'll put a scroll container first with a full rect and put something inside it. Now this one you can see I don't want horizontal, I just want vertical. And my VBox container itself will contain a bunch of things. And in this case, it's 5 buttons with icons. So button, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 buttons. It's also important for me to expand horizontally so that they will have things. All of them has some text, so I'll just type whatever because I don't have the time. And I'll put some icon on each of them. So let me use the one with the icon. Well, let's say I have some buttons. I have a divisor, which I can make in many ways. Just maybe with a split container, it's possible. Maybe with a simple control node and dragging something on top. Like changing whatever material it is here, or modulate it to a different color with a minimum height. So size in Y is a little bit big while I expand in X. You see it's on top. And this is because, yeah, I still need a VBox overall, VBox. So this will contain everything. There we go. And this will expand. Good. These have the buttons. This thing, you see, there's like I can't see anything, but it is modulated. and I need to put some minimum Y, I think. No, I'll just use a panel. As always, I I end up using panels for everything. But I can do something like this and make it fairly fancy if I want. Minimum size in Y. And you see, there's like something. Now I can control whatever, like what is the actual size that I want. Maybe 1 is enough, maybe 2. Yeah, and I can change the color of this panel without modulating. I can barely see it. Make it very dark. Yeah, it's something. And of course, there's, you see, this is not dark, this is brighter, but sure. But these things are like in the center instead of going to the edge, even though the button is going to the edge. So once again, what I would do is instead of putting things on buttons, is putting things inside, but still. I'm just going through things quickly here because I won't have the time to do that many fancy things. Now you can see I want this to be a little bit bigger so I can expand my margin top. Not this one actually. Sure, I can use border for that. I'll go back. There is a better way. This one. Not right. Top, bottom. If I increase them, I'm able also to increase the minimum size. Maybe put 30. You see here, everything is dark because like the entire thing is being covered. I can use like a center container here. Maybe it's easier though. I'll just use that. Not as elegant, but it definitely solves the issue. So center container, if I come here and put some minimum size, and this thing needs to be full. Interesting, I expected this to grow. It doesn't grow. Sure, I'll use a margin container then. And put some margins. Yes, margin top maybe 20. Margin bottom 22. There we go. And now with this, the minimum size can go back to 2. There we go. Now it's a little bit better split. The color, I can come back here. And my time is running short. Good enough, but you can understand what is going on. Like this, I would just finish filling out the things to the right, to the left. Now to the things to the right in the panel 2, which I'll call main. Once again, there's something on the top where I'll add a panel top wide with something, and the buttons here. The buttons will be a HBox container with a scroll container inside. So this thing will be full rect. This thing will have a bunch of buttons. So the button will, this thing needs to grow as well. Expand, good. This thing won't expand. This will have some text. The theme of it, the style, is once again the rounded thing that I showed before. So just make something pretty quickly, a little bit this, and put a bunch of them. and so on and so forth. You can imagine more or less how things go now. And I'll add a little bit bigger split, maybe even bigger, maybe smaller. Good. And this scroll, of course, like I wouldn't say it uses the entire screen. We would use something like this. Maybe a little bit smaller too. Okay. Good enough for now. Of course, I would make a little bit better if I have time, but there's no time. And finally, a grid container on full rect. And this is outside this panel. There we go. Needs to be underneath. Inside this grid container, there will be essentially a scene. I can make a little scene here with, say, a video player or something like that. Full rect, not full, with some label on the bottom. So bottom white with some text here. I'm for sure missing a bunch of things on the text side and some paddings as well on the text. There we go. Something like this. This is my video and time is up. Yep. This thing would duplicate here and essentially populate the grid container, which has 4. It certainly is not working properly, probably because this needs to be full rect. Interesting. It seems that the video player is a little bit more different than I thought. Leave it as panel for now. There we go. So yeah, this is the first speedrun attempt. And yeah, I'm doing extra things here just because there's some time. But you can see already the videos will be here. Of course, the videos also need to be abundant. There are many things still to do, but it's not too shabby actually for 20 minutes hacking things up. Let me know if you like this kind of video. If you have other ideas of interfaces that I can also do in the future, I'm happy to receive challenges. And of course, like and subscribe if you like. I'll do more in case you like this kind of thing. Otherwise, I'll just move on to other ideas. Let me know in the comments if I should continue, and thanks for watching.